Hope you enjoyed your cigarette.
Yeah, I didn't realise, I don't smoke very often, so it was really, really, really well needed.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit full on, and I've got to say that the next round of questions will be...
There's a lot of reflection with the conversation.
It is, and it can cause a little bit of anxiety for you, so I'm hoping that you're feeling okay about that.
Well, I'm feeling a bit bad about my parents, actually.
Okay.
Because I've lumped a lot on them, I've lumped me on them.
Well, have you had conversations around this?
Well, I know that Mum tries to, support me,
Yeah.
do everything positive,
Yeah.
and at her own loss.
Yeah.
And Dad's ambivalent to it all.
Okay.
But I don't know whether he is or not.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something that we can bring here, and then if you're really concerned about how it's affecting your parents, at some stage we can bring that into the conversation as well, and we can maybe invite them into a session.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Because it would be really hard for me to, launch into that at home.
Sure, of course. No, that's absolutely understandable. Are they aware that you use substances?
Yeah.
Yeah? So they know, do they know how much?
Mum does. Dad doesn't want to believe it.
Okay.
And he reacts to it by drinking.
Sure.
So using his own substance.
Sure. Yes.
Not his little girl,
No, of course. All right, look, I think when we get to that place where we invite your parents, I'll need for you to sign a consent to share, so that I can make sure that you're happy with the things that we discuss with your parents. And also, we talked a little bit about you having a psychiatrist that you don't care very much about. And if I need to have a bit of a chat to them, I'll need you to consent so that I can have a bit of a chat.
I'd really like a different psychiatrist.
Okay.
I'm just seeing this person because Mum got them for me and
Sure.
they're paying for it type of thing.
And I'm more than happy to have that happen for you. I think before we do anything else, what I'd really like to do is ask you a few more questions, so that I can get a little bit more of an idea of where we're heading with this and what we're dealing with. So the very first sort of set of questions that I'd like to ask you is around your substance use. So really, you said that you are only an occasional tobacco user.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you first started smoking?
When I first started stealing Mum's cigarettes was when I was being bullied at school at 18.
Okay. And have you ever been a regular user? Have you ever been a regular user?
No. It disgusts me.
And it's just you're using...
It's a nervous thing.
Right. Tailors or rollies?
Oh, Taylor's.
Yeah. Average daily use?
I'd be lucky to use one a week.
All right. So I guess
When things get
times
too
of
much,
extreme stress.
Yeah.
So in the past week you've had one?
Yeah.
Days used in the past 4 weeks?
4.
All right. Let's talk about your alcohol consumption. How old were you when you first started using?
Alcohol? That was 6 months ago.
Okay, so you hadn't really drunk, not even at school, parties?
No.
Okay.
We're a non-drinking family. Dad didn't really drink until 6 months ago.
Okay, so it feels like there's a pattern that's starting to be established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
So you've regularly started using about 6 months ago. All right. And with alcohol, I presume it's drinking, so the route of ingestion.
2 days a week.
2 days a week. Daily use in the past week.
2 days.
It's Friday as
And lunch. Yeah.
and lunch. Okay. Day you last used.
Lunch, which was on Tuesday.
Okay. And is this something that you want help for?
Oh, definitely Fridays.
Definitely your Friday drinking.
Yeah, I think there's a lot involved in that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I dare say that we'll probably be getting around to having a chat about that soon. Cannabis, you said that it does.
Zero.
You
zero.
have in the
Years
past.
ago.
When did you first?
I tried it when I was 18, when all that was happening, and last time I used it, I was 19.
Okay. Cocaine?
No, not at all.
Methamphetamine?
Yes.
How old were you when you first started using it?
6 months ago.
Okay.
21. Okay. Just nearly 22.
And was that about the same time as you started using regularly?
Yeah, when I finished work.
Okay. So when you finished work, which was, you said about 6 months ago, yeah.
So I started drinking, using meth, using Dexys, going out on Friday nights.
Okay. And so your average daily use?
So April 3.6 is 1800 divided by 3 for the last 3 weeks, about 1.2. So it's about 1.2 grams. So use it 3 times a week, so it's about 4 points a day.
4 points a day?
For 3 days a week, each day.
Okay. 4 points a day, 3 days a week. All right. That's very specific. And that's really good to know. Oftentimes people don't remember.
I've got a bit of a numbers brain.
Okay, well that's good. I wish I did. And so the days used in the past week, you'd say traditionally about 3 days a week?
Yeah.
Okay. When was the last time you used?
Lunch.
Okay, today? Tuesday. So we had a bit of a big lunch.
Well, I do every week with the girls.
The girls.
So we have lunch and we have Friday night.
Okay.
And then there's usually a session by myself.
Okay, so that's interesting to me that 2 out of the 3 sessions are with the same set of people.
But they don't all do it.
Okay.
So there's some girls that don't drink and also don't do that.
Right.
Which was me 6 months ago.
Okay, right. And so is this the specific substance that you are seeking help for?
I'd say both.
Both alcohol and... All right.
So not with G, I think I've got G under control.
Okay. Have you taken any other amphetamine type stimulants, for example MDMA, ecstasy? No. You don't use E's when you're partying? No? All right.
Dirty drug.
What about inhalants? We talked a little bit about NANGs. Not at all?
No.
Okay, so them non-prescribed sedatives, anything that you get from your friends?
Well, the Dexys, because they're not prescribed to me.
Right.
But the Mercendol I get prescribed.
Right.
So that's it.
And no Valleys?
No, I get the lithium.
Okay, yes, you're on lithium, which is a prescribed medication.
No Valium. I had quite quetiapine a few times.
Okay. How did you feel with that?
Well, it was just like being on ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you take it in conjunction with anything? Alcohol? Anything else?
No, I had a girlfriend, she's on it for her mental health.
Okay.
And whenever she can't get in, she doubles her amount that she takes, and so I couldn't get in, so I took it.
Okay.
And it was just the same.
Okay. And I got to ask you, how did that make you feel, and what sort of...
Well, I wondered why I've been spending all that money on ice.
Right.
But it had a really weird side effect to it.
Okay.
Like it was a real out-of-body numb experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
didn't like it at all.
it doesn't look like you enjoyed that at all?
No.
All right.
But they sell it at the place where we go for lunch.
Okay.
All the guys sell it to each other.
Right.
For a lot of money.
Okay. Okay.
Because it is.
So it's readily available to you
Yeah.
should you need it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hallucinogens?
No.
Non-prescribed opioids, anything that oxys?
No.
And you said you have some G every so often, so when was the first time you used G?
First time I used G was when I was about 18.
Okay. And regularly?
I think it's regularly because it's once a month.
Okay. How do you use it? How do you take it?
Drink it.
You drink it, so you put a little bit in water?
Apple juice.
Okay.
Oh God, no, you can drink it in water.
And how much approximately do you use?
Oh God, well it depends because it changes every what would you say, every sample. of
Mhm.
G is different.
Okay.
So it can be anywhere from 1.5 mils through to 4 mils, depending on how strong it is.
Okay, so,
So you try a little bit and see how it is, and then you have a bit more.
and you'd be using that in conjunction with alcohol?
No,
No? So
Oh, no.
you're not...
because G is really dangerous. for
Right,
you.
that's what I'm wondering
Yeah,
if you
Melbourne
realised.
Sexual Health Centre told me all about it.
Okay, that's great. That's really, really good. There's a
That's-
lot
that's
of
why
young
it's a
people
date
who
drug.
aren't.
That's why it's a date rape drug.
Yes, that is correct. Okay, so have you used in the past week?
No.
In the past month?
Yes. Once.
Once?
And 2 mils.
Okay.
And that was, $22.
Okay.
So it's a cheap high.
It is. This is a substance you feel that you're across, so
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want help with this one?
No.
Okay. Any other prescribed opioids that we need to think about? And anything else? So anything else could be things like steroids or energy drinks or excessive amounts of caffeine or no? None of those things? All right, brilliant. That's given me a really good indication of where you are with your use. I just want to kind of ask you a couple more questions around your current use. Have you had any periods of abstinence over the last 6 months with regards to the Friday night drinking?
Just the week that I moved back home.
Okay. And with regards to your methamphetamine use?
Yeah,
Same thing?
It was that week.
So it was literally just a week as a blip
Yeah.
in the last 6 months of use?
I was home with mum and dad, and they were happy to have me, so I couldn't do it.
Sure. Have you ever been in for treatment or any kind of interventions for either? Have you ever been hospitalised for either? Have you ever had an overdose scenario?
No.
Have you ever passed out cold with
Yeah.
alcohol use?
Yeah.
So that's an overdose. Did you realise that?
No.
Yeah. So if you
Well, that's regular.
right, what are we talking about? Regular.
Every second Friday night.
Okay. So regular.
Yeah.
Okay. When you overdose with alcohol and there is more in your system than your body can handle, you tend to go into what we call blackout. And quite often with alcohol, blackout is synonymous with overdose. So lots of people aren't aware of that, but that's your body just saying, I have had enough. Have you ever gone into a withdrawal process from either of those substances? So when you couldn't get it and you've been strung out a little bit?
No, because I haven't had that situation in the 6 months that I've been using.
Okay. Do you use alone
For 1 day a week.
with methamphetamines?
Yeah.
What about alcohol?
No.
No? And when you use alone, are you smoking it or yeah? Because I remember you said you don't like to inject it yourself. Have you ever driven under the influence of either? No?
Don't have a car, don't have a license.
Okay.
I've driven my mother mad under the influence.
I guess the next question will be around your support structure, and you seem to think that your mum and your dad are really great supports for you.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone else?
Mum is, I don't know about that really. He's just not, again, he's not policing.
Right. But there.
Yeah.
And not giving you too much grief.
And letting me steal money off him.
Right. Any of your friends, would you say any of your friends were, the girls that you go drinking with?
No.
No, so you wouldn't...
We're all in the same boat, really.
Yeah, so you feel that you're all a little bit sad and kind of...
Well, half of us are.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a good group to go out with.
Right.
There's the girls at work.
Yeah.
And don't drink and don't drink, so they're fun and they shout drinks and whatever. And we don't leave anyone behind, so if someone changes and gets a job again, then they go back into their normal lifestyle.
Sure. And
Which
then...
is what I was hoping was going to happen to me, but
Right.
it hasn't happened.
It's early days, isn't it? And you're here now, and that's really important. I think the first step...
Well, there's less girls in the clique now that do use.
Right.
So I'm kind of on the outer.
Okay. formal structure, you said you have a psychiatrist. Do you have a GP that you go to? And you mentioned
He's a pushover. So if they ever wanted anything, I could get it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think he likes me.
Okay. So how would you feel about perhaps if we had to change doctors to do that? Okay. And you said you've gone to, was it the Melbourne clinic that you mentioned for education around some of your safe use?
One of my other girlfriends in the group, she'd been.
Right.
One of them got pregnant.
Okay.
And so part of that process was our other girlfriend went with her through the process of termination, and she was advised to go to the MSHC herself, and she went and said it was so great. She said that, we should all go.
So I guess what I'm trying to ascertain is that they've given you some really great safety mechanisms around your substance use. Have you also had safe sex practice?
Yes.
Okay.
And bloodborne viruses and all of that stuff.
Terrific.
Yeah.
All right. So that's perhaps something that I won't need to go
also
across
how
with
to,
you.
never leave your drink alone and everything.
Fantastic.
Everything.
That's brilliant. If you ever do need any sort of other stuff, just don't hesitate to ask or go back to the clinic. All right, I guess the other thing that I wanted to ask you was around your family. You say your dad's drinking. Can you tell me, is that a generational thing? Do you know if his parents drank?
Yeah, his dad did drink, but his dad drank all his life and was abusive.
Right.
So that's why we never drank.
Okay.
But then when I started having my problems, Dad started drinking.
Right.
But he's not abusive with it.
Right.
I think he's sad.
Right.
I think he feels like he's failed somehow because he didn't drink specifically to not be like his father, so we'd have a good life. And I think seeing what's happened to me, he feels like he's failed in providing a good life.
Okay. Well, that's something that perhaps we can have a chat about as a family, if you wanted to do that later on.
As long as it doesn't upset him or hurt him.
No, we'd be here to provide support structure for both your mum and your dad. And the other question that I guess I want to ask about your family is there any mental health history?
No, none at all.
Okay.
All happy campers.
Your money, is that coming from Centrelink at the moment? Have you ever had any forensic issues apart from that one time?
No.
Do you have any allergies?
No. Peanut butter.
Peanut butter?
Yeah.
So that's an allergy as well as a dietary requirement. Do you have any cardiac?
Apparently now you can have a little bit of peanut every now and then, and eventually you get rid of the allergy.
I would want to do that under medical supervision. I wouldn't want to be doing that at home.
I was going to try that though, because I love peanut butter.
Yeah. Well then, talk to your doctor and he can organise that for you, but I would not recommend doing that on your own. Any cardiac or respiratory problems? Any gastro issues? Any skeletal problems? Diabetes in your family? Seizures, epilepsy? Do you have any head injuries?
No.
And have you ever fallen over and hurt your head while you've been in a substance affected state?
No, I didn't really pass out at home.
Okay.
In my bed.
Okay.
Or getting unchanged for bed.
Okay.
And pass out onto the bed.
Right. Dental problems? Do you have any issues with your meth mouth?
No, because I had a really good meth dealer when I first started, and he said to me about cleaning your teeth 3 times a day.
Great.
To lose your teeth. So I've always done that.
Terrific. Any chronic pain?
I do get sore aches and things since I've been on the meth.
Yeah.
It's like, it's doing something to my bones.
Right. And yes, indeed, it is doing something, and we'll have that chat later on. Do you take any pain medication for it?
Alcohol.
The one that suits everyone. Pregnant?
No.
Any likelihood?
No. I use the UDI as well as condoms.
Okay. Any skin conditions?
A bit of eczema.
Okay. And you're dealing with that, I presume?
Yeah,
cortisol or?
No. Natural Callister's pawpaw.
Terrific, because I was going to suggest a contraindication. STIs? Any
No.
sexually trans? No?
I do
And-
have herpes.
Okay, and you're dealing with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're being safe, I presume?
Yes.
Bloodborne viruses?
No.
Okay. All right. So that information I'm going to download now, and then I'll look into that for our next session. The next thing that I'd like to talk to you about is around mental health. And I was really struck by how low in affect you feel, and how sad and sort of anxious and depressed your K10 came across as. So I'm going to just ask you a few questions, and just answer to the best of your ability, as well as you can remember. Do you have a diagnosis? You said that you're on lithium,
Yeah,
and so you're bipolar.
Yeah.
Have you been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder?
Yeah, I think I have. And also I've also been diagnosed with paranoia.
Paranoia. Okay, and was this by the same psychiatrist that you've seen?
The one that I know, yeah.
Okay. And so your bipolar diagnosis was when? How long ago were you diagnosed?
When I
with
was like 15.
Okay. And the anxiety / paranoia when?
No, the anxiety when I was 18, when all the bullying happened, but the paranoia about 2 months into using that.
Okay.
So about 4 months ago.
And that makes quite a lot of sense. All right. Do you have any other diagnoses around social phobias or?
Just a strong lack in confidence.
Okay. And do you think that that is one of the reasons why you might be drinking in the way that you do?
I'm using drugs, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your psychiatrist, has he diagnosed you for anything specifically? Schizophrenia?
No.
Psychosis? Substance-induced psychosis?
Well, when he talked about paranoia, he talked about psychosis,
Yes.
but he said that I was more paranoid
Yes.
than psychosis. So
And did he explain to you where he thought that it may have come from, or
He thought
what
it was drug
induced it?
induced.
So he thought that it was the
Yeah.
methamphetamine. It has, I've got to say, it feels that that's probably quite a correct diagnosis in light of how you're using, how much you're using, when you're using, and in conjunction with what else
Yeah.
you're using. Do you have any other diagnoses around personality disorders? Do you gamble?
No,
So no slotties when you're at the pub?
no, don't have any money.
How's your eating? Do you have, are you
Well, Mum, I'm still her little girl, so she does breakfast and dinner,
okay,
and then I have lunch once a week with the girls. So I have lunch once a week.
okay. So you would say that that's a fairly healthy,
Yeah, I could lose a couple of kilos.
and you haven't had, because you've mentioned DEXIs a number of times, no ADD
No.
diagnosis?
They're
Spectrum disorder?
No, I just get them off the girls for the coming out.
Sure. And that is what I figured.
Mm.
Okay. Have you ever had a mental health worker?
No.
Okay. Have you ever?
Well, when I was being bullied at school, I went and saw the health nurse. She tried to help me, but there was no help.
You didn't feel that there was
Well, it
anything?
kept going on.
Yeah. And
I was depressed.
the psychiatrist, did he?
I started seeing him 6 months ago.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to run a mental state exam on you. Just to ask you a few more questions. Do you, on a day-to-day basis, how often would you feel low in affect? How often would you feel heightened?
Most times I'm low in effect.
Low.
Yeah.
Because you have a diagnosis of bipolar, did the psychiatrist explain to you the type of bipolar you may have? Because it feels to me like while you're paranoid or well, he says that you have had a diagnosis of paranoia. It doesn't sound to me like you're very heightened very often.
Oh, when I was 15, when I first got diagnosed, I was, but that all changed when I got bullied.
Okay.
So my whole personality was suppressed.
Okay. And so
I haven't been the person that I am since then.
Okay. So you're more likely to be experiencing episodes of depression rather than mania, is where I'm heading. Yes. Okay. And so the likelihood of manic episodes is relatively
That's why I
low.
played so much sport when I was young, because of the mania.
Okay, right. And you aren't playing sport at the moment. When you're taking methamphetamine, does that get you to the same kind of level of heightened?
No, but it makes me wish I was playing sport.
Right, okay.
Because I think I would use meth if I played sport.
Okay.
I think a lot of girls do.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about your paranoia? You said that you've been diagnosed with.
Well, I feel that, everyone knows everything about me, and sometimes I think people are reading my mind.
To broach the subject of thoughts, and you're going to be telling me.
Okay.
That,
this is still the same thing.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You've mentioned on a couple of occasions now that you were a little bit concerned about people hearing your thoughts. Is that what you meant, or listening into your thoughts?
People being able to be actively involved in observing my mind, and so my thoughts are in my mind. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and how do you think that happens?
Well, it's like they've got telepathy or something.
Okay. And how often do you feel that?
It depends. It can sometimes be quite regular, and then it can be a break for a while. It just depends on what I've got going on.
Okay, and that's interesting. Do you notice that it happens more after a binge session?
Yes, it does, and also when I'm very anxious.
Right, which we've discussed is quite often, isn't it? According to your K10, you feel anxious quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And with your very regular drinking pattern and your reasonably regular methamphetamine use, and coupled with your anxiety, I'm just wondering, has the thought that someone is reading your mind or reading your thoughts become more prevalent in the last 6 months?
Well, it's only happened in the last 6 months.
Okay. So do you see that there could possibly be a pattern or a correlation between
I do think
your
there's
use?
probably a correlation.
Yeah. And
the timeline is too perfect.
Yes. So your drinking, which has kicked up in the last 6 months.
But I don't know whether that's because I'm more at tune because of using the meth, that they're able to enter my mind.
I see. So you think that maybe in some way the meth is facilitating.
Yes.
Or of the ease of reading your mind.
Because I'm more, I'm not adverse to things I normally am adverse to.
Okay, so you're more open to having it
the
done.
cosmos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I need to ask you how this manifests itself in your life. What do you do about it when you're more attuned to it, or when you're
Well, I worry.
Yeah?
I worry what they're going to do with that.
Right. Okay.
How they're going to use it against me.
Okay. And that obviously will probably make you feel really even more anxious and possibly even more depressed.
Very depressed.
And so it
because
becomes
then nothing's private.
A cycle?
Yeah.
Where you overthink it and then it becomes a spiral.
Oh, when I overthink it, it gets really bad.
Yeah.
And I get really depressed.
Okay. All right. And that is something that I can absolutely, definitely understand. Look, I think I just want to ask you one more question, and then I think we need to have a bit of a conversation. You said that you sometimes felt a little bit depressed, or a lot's depressed and really quite low, and your K10 strikes me as being at a dangerously low level. So I just wanted to ask you whether you've ever had suicidal thoughts.
No.
No?
No.
You've never felt...
No.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to know. All right, so look, here's where I'm sitting at the moment, and we've had a really long session, and it's almost time for you to go.
Yeah.
But I'm really concerned about you. I'm concerned about the depth of your depression. I'm concerned about the mental health that you're going through at the moment. I'm really concerned about your drinking, which is at binge proportions and is at a dangerously high level. And I'm worried about your methamphetamine use. I guess what I'm really worried about is all of that all together. And the thing that really concerns me the most, I think, is that all of this has happened in a relatively short period of time, that in the last 6 months you've noticed a significant escalation of pretty much all of these things, including some really significant mental unwellness.
It's also brought up all of the past.
Absolutely. And
because I thought I'd gotten over that, being bullied and everything.
of course, and I don't know if you know very much about trauma, but that it is something that we'll revisit at times when we least expect, and probably at times when we're at our lowest. All of the substances that you're choosing to use lower your central nervous system, and so lower your capacity to be able to deal with and become resilient too. And so it doesn't surprise me that some of your past trauma is surfacing at a time when you're feeling particularly vulnerable. And the fact that you're now talking about feeling paranoid and worrying about having your thoughts read is of great concern to me. So I'm going to recommend a couple of things, and I want to see how you feel about them. I would really like it, and you've said to me that you've got a mental health person in your life that you're not happy with. I would really like it if we could perhaps bring someone else into the mix. And perhaps if you went to see your doctor, or I could arrange for us to see someone else, where you would get a mental health plan, and where we would
I
perhaps...
have to get one of those even for the guy I've got.
That's correct, you would have. And we could get a mental health plan and then get someone into your life who you're more comfortable to talk with. Now, right now, in the current state of lowness that you're feeling, I would really quite like to get an assessment by the CAT team. The CAT team is a crisis team, so what they would do is they would come and triage your mental health. They would ask you some very similar questions. I would, if you give me the consent to share, I would share some of the information we've talked about today. And then
they don't send you to the insane asylum.
They do not send you anywhere unless they're worried that you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
And I'm quite happy that that's not a thing that's going on for you. You also have some really terrific support structure at home, so I think that they would probably let you go home and support you from an at-home process. I'd really like for that to happen today, because I'm just worried that with the amount of drinking and the amount of substance use and the amount of really low affect that you're feeling, that this can only get worse. And the fact that you've come in, I think you're probably worried about that as well.
Yeah, I'm crying out for help.
Yeah.
Just didn't know how to approach it.
Well, you've done the absolute perfect thing, which is to come and see us, so really well done for that.
Thank you for spending so much time.
Oh no, that's more.
And I've learned so much today, and it's opening my mind to a lot of reflection.
Well, reflection is always a positive from my perspective. What if we either called the triage team, or I guess I could probably even set up a Zoom or a Skype call. What would you prefer?
It doesn't worry me.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that now, and then I'll get that organised for you. You can go and either speak to someone today or whenever their next available appointment is. But I'd feel really much happier to think that today we would be doing something today. And then the next time that you come in, and are you intending on coming to see us again?
Yes.
So the next time you come in, we can deal with some of these other things that we've picked up along the way. and I can find
I
out.
think I'll be a permanent resident.
Okay, well, how about we make the appointment for the same time next
Okay.
week? Does that sound
Yeah,
all right?
fantastic.
And what I'll do is I'll give you a call in a few days and find out what the triage team have said.
Okay.
So why don't we go down to reception, and reception can organise that telephone call, and I'll see if they can get you in today, and if not, then hopefully by tomorrow.
Awesome.
Does that sound
great.
all right?
Sounds great.
Great.
Thanks,
all right.
Iren.
And I'll see you next week, Sarah.
Okay, great.
Lovely.
Thanks.
Cheers.